Okay, so let me share my screen. Okay, good. So first of all, I want to say sorry for the 10 minutes delay. There's some technical issues. Okay, so let me first share my screen. Make sure my screens are ready to set up. Okay, let me see if I make it. Okay, good. So for the first problem today, we're going to talk about the count and statistic and probability module of the AMC exam. So let's take a look of the first problem, okay? So Isabella must take 500 points in her math, 100-point test in her math class. Her goal is to achieve an average of 95. Okay, shift the screen too much. So the goal is to achieve how many? 95. Okay, average of 95. Okay, good. So the goal is an average of 95 on test. Her first two test scores were 97 and 91. After seeking her score on the third test, she realized that she can still reach her goal. What is the lowest possible score she could have? So first, let's calculate what is the goal. The goal is basically 95. That's the average. So times 5, you get 475. Okay. So that is the total score to have on the 5 exams. And we are also given that for the first two tests, okay, Isabella get a 97 and a 91. So that is 188. So this is the total score that Isabella get for the first two tests. Okay. Then what's the next step? For the next step, we are looking for the last three tests because we have a 5 tests and 2 tests already taken. So last 3 tests, it should be what? It should be the summation of the 95 times 5 minus 188, which is 287. Okay, so the total score of Isabella's last 3 tests should be equal to 287. Let me change the color and continue. Okay, so here's explanation. Since low is possible, okay, we're looking for the lowest possible score she could make for the third test. Since the low is possible on the third test, so we should assume that Isabella get 100 points, right, on the fourth and the fifth test. Okay, so why we're doing this? Because in order to make sure the third test has a lower score, we need to make sure the last two tests has a higher score. So since it has a fixed summation, the total is fixed. Then if a total minus a very large number, the difference, right, the remainder should be very small. Then let's do that into practice. So for the third test, we are going to have 287, which is a total score for the last 3 tests minus the possible maximum for test 4 and 5. We should get 287 minus 200, which is 87. Okay, so the lowest positive score for Isabella to get on the third test should be 87. That's why we choose option A. Okay, so that's for this problem. Now on to the second one. It should be based on the same idea, same approach. So still again, it's our character Isabella must take in this time is 4 100-point tests in her math class. Her goal is to achieve an average of 95 on the test. So 95 on the test. Just before reading this part, we can already write down the goal. That is 95 instead of 5 tests this time, we have 4. Okay, so that should give you 380. So for the first two tests, Her score on the first two tests was 97 and 99, so same number. 97 plus 99, we get 188. Okay, so that's the total score she got for the first two tests. Then, after seeing her score on third test, she realized that she can still reach her goal, which is the lowest possible score she could have on the third test. So that's our goal again. Okay, lowest possible. So first, given the summation of the total 5 tests and the summation of the first 2 tests, we can definitely find a difference, which is the last 3 tests, okay? The last 3 tests is the difference between 380 and 188. So we should get a difference of 192. Okay, so that's for the total score she got for the last 3 tests. Now, let me switch back to green for the second part of the problem. Since we are still looking for the, sorry, let me make it better. Okay, good. Since we are still looking for the lowest possible on the third test, so we should assume that the last test is what? The last test has higher score. Actually, there's a typo here because we should just have, since the total is how many? 4 tests. So it's first 2 and last 2 instead of last 3. Okay, so that's a small typo. Let me fix it real quick. Here should be 2. All right. Now, since the lowest on the third, which means maximum on the fourth. Why? Because their summation is fixed. So one addition number increases means the other one must decrease. Okay, we are looking for a decrease this time. So we are assume Isabella, what is the highest possible score she can get for a test? 100, right? So Isabella get how many? 100 points on the fourth test. Okay. So, since we know the summation of the score for the third and fourth test is 192, so if we use that number minus the maximum score she can get for the fourth test, we should get the lowest possible score she are aiming to for the third test, which is 92. That's why we choose B. Okay, so again, for this kind of problem, the general thinking is about first find a summation that exclude all the part that is not our interest, so the remaining should be our solution. Okay, so that's for this one. Now, before we move to the third problem of today's live stream session, I do want to include a brief timeline for the upcoming 2025 AMC8. So first, in June and July, so July's already passed, right? We did have the AMC8 mock test, so it's going to be extremely like the same one you have on the real exam, okay? Still composed of 25 problems, and the time limitation is 40 minutes. So we're going to have another round of AMC mock test in August, in November, okay, and in December, January. So that's for the mock test part. After that, we're also going to have our short-term and short-term AR and HR class. So for AR class, it's basically designed especially for those who are aiming for the achievement role in the upcoming 2025 AMC8, and about the same idea for the HR class. However, the only difference is that HR is the abbreviation for honor roll, right? AR is for achievement role. So HR class are going to be more challenging than the AI class for sure. So as we head into November, we have our second round of AR and HR class, another round of AMC mock test. In December, our third round of AR HR, and in January, right before we step into the test center to take the AMC exam, we're going to have our one and only short-term DHR class, okay? So this class is designed for those who are aiming for the distinguished honor roll, so it's going to be focused more on the last 2 or 3 problems, okay? So if you want to know more about these classes, about which class best feature need, I'm highly welcome you to add me on my WeChat. So that's Think VIP60. And also you can go to Facebook and search on the group titled AMC8 Helpful and Educational Math Resources. Again, in this group, we are not only going to share the problem set you can use to prepare for the exam, but also we are going to exchange information about the preparation. Okay, so that's for the information session. Now let's go to exit ticket. Okay, our third problem of today's live stream session. So the mean of a set of 5 different positive numbers is 15. So just by reading this sentence, okay, we should grab some keywords. But first, let me get my pen. The mean, okay, of a set of 5 different positive integers is 15. So the first condition we have is their summation, which is 15 times 5. That is equal to 75, okay? And the median is 18. The question is asking for median 18. What is the maximum possible value of the largest of these 5 integers? So we are basically having a situation like this. So let me change to a different color. How about yellow? Okay. So we have each box denote for one number. Since we have 5 numbers, so it should exactly look like this, right? 18 is in the middle because it's the median, and the numbers ranking from the smallest to the largest. So here are some keywords. What are the requirements for numbers that go into each of these boxes? The requirement is, okay, we must have 5 different, okay, and positive integers. Okay, let me write it better. Okay, so that's our requirement. First is different and positive than integers. So what are the options? Since these numbers at the left-hand side of 18 should be less than 18, and we want to have the largest possible value with a fixed summation. So again, by decreasing value of the rest, will give you the highest number possible when the summation is fixed, okay? So let's say this one is 1, and can I still put 1 on the second box? No, because we need a difference, okay? So that should be a 2. And 18, the next number is 19. So this last box, the number in the last box, should be find it by having 75 subtract 1, subtract 2, subtract 18, subtract 19, okay? So let's do that. So the final box, okay, is equals to the total, the fixed sum, which is 75 minus 1, minus 2, minus 18, minus 19. And the result should be 35. Okay, let me put a little box to denote that this is our final answer. And that's why we choose D. Okay, so that's for this problem. And I think the most important part of solving a problem like this is that you always have the condition of a fixed summation. So fixed summation means those additive number, they are disproportional. So increasing one of the number will definitely result in a decrease in the other number. So as long as you are clear with this fact, this problem should be straightforward. Okay, so that's for number 3. Now it's time for number 4. It's another warm-up question. So our character Liam takes 4 pizzas, each out of 50 points. On the third 3 pizzas, his quizzes, sorry, it's not pizza, it's quizzes, he scores the same number of points. On the fourth quiz, he scores lower than his previous quiz. His average score for all 4 quizzes is 45. How many values are possible for Liam's scores on the fourth quiz? So first, let's highlight those key information. The first one is we got 4 quizzes, okay? Each is out of 50 points. And the first 3 quizzes, we got the same number of points, okay? So on the fourth quiz, he scores lower. And the average for all 4 quizzes is 45. So first, let's do the assumption. For this kind of problem, it's usually more convenient if we can assign an x to one of the unknowns, so we can set up the equation more conveniently, okay? So assume x points on each of the first 3 quiz, okay? On each of the first 3 quizzes. Okay, good. So, since we know that they have the same score on the first 3 quiz, so the score of the fourth quiz, so let me write it better. The score on the fourth quiz is just the total number, which is 45. The average for the 4 quizzes times 4 gives you the summation minus 3x, right? So let me write it better. Minus 3x. So again, let me make the notation so we are clear that, okay, I'll use blue. 45 here is the, what? Is the total, okay? Total for the 4 quizzes. That's 1. Now let's go back to our problem solving. So since we know that, and let me write it better. So because the fourth quiz score is lower as given in the problem, okay? Then x must be, let me write it better. Okay, so x must be more than 45. Okay, good. So that's what the condition tells us, right? Since the force is lower, then imagine we have x, 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 and the force is unknown. In this case, the average is 45. So since the last one is definitely lower than 45, so in order to make the mean, the average still enough to be 45, we need to have a higher value for the x, right? So that's for this part. Therefore, x, what are the possible values to be more than 45? It can be 46, right? It can be 47, it can be 48, it can be 49, and it can be 50. Notice that 50 is the highest possible value because each of these quizzes out of 50 points. So if we plug in the number 46, 47, 48, 49, 50 to our equation set up in the second line of our solution, we'll definitely get what? One value for x for each of these values, right? So that's how we do it. Then, so each of these value will give, let me write it better. Each will give a possible score for the first quiz, for the fourth quiz, right? Each will give a possible score for the fourth quiz. So let's count it. How many do we have? What are the possible numbers we have? So we have, that's 1, that's 2, that's 3, that's 4, and that's 5. Okay? So what answer should be correct? 5. Okay? So that's how to solve the first problem of exercise number 2. Okay, good. Now on to the next slide. So before we move on to our fifth problem of today's live stream session, there's a quick information I would like to provide. Okay, so first, as I know a lot of my audience are aiming for getting a good score on the 2025 AMCA. So starting in June and July, which is already passed, we have our first round of AMC mock test, and the same mock test, not with the same problem, but in the same format, which is the one you're going to encounter in the real exam. That is 25 multiple choice questions and 40 limits time difference are going to be placed 4 more times. Okay, in August and September there will be one. During October and November there will be one. In December there will be another one. And finally, before we step into the test center, there's going to be another mock test. Okay, beside those mock tests, we're also going to have short-term AR and HR class. So it will be 3 rounds. The first round will take place in August. The second round will take place in October, November, and the third round will take place in December. So also right before we're taking the exam, we are going to have our short-term DHR class for the only time. So DHR class, like AR and HR class, which are aiming for students for different prizes, but DHR class are going to be more challenging because it will be focused on the last 3 problems. Okay, AR and HR will basically focus on the 18, previous 18, the first 18 problems, and HR may be a little bit more advanced as they will go to problem maybe number 21. So if you want to know more information about this part, I highly recommend you add me on my WeChat, which is ThinkWeb60. Also, there's another very useful resource you can use. It's posted on Facebook. So you can search the Facebook group titled AMC8 Helpful and Educational Math Resources. Okay, so as you log into those groups, you'll see when we not only share problem set that can be used for study to the exam, also we're going to exchange information about how to get well prepared, okay, before we take the exam. So that's for this part. And similarly, we're going to have another 2 problem that is almost the same, okay, but slightly different. So now our character Laila took 5 math tests, each was a maximum of 100 points. So let me highlight the keywords. Okay, where's my pen? Good. Layla's score on the test was an integer between 10 and 0 and 100 inclusive. Okay, so it was an integer between 0 and 100. And what does inclusive mean here? Inclusive means that we can take a possible value for 0 and 100 for a test taker's score. So let me highlight that. This means 0 and 100 are included. Okay. Okay, good. So Layla received the same score on the first 4 tests. So let's still do our strategy which applied in the previous problem. So let's assume, okay, let me write it better. Let's assume Layla gets X score on first 4 tests. Okay, so since the first score, so now we have 4x. Good. So, and she received a higher score on the last test. Okay, unlike the first problem, it says lower. This time, she makes an improvement. It's a higher score. Her average score on the first 5 tests was 82. How many possible values are for Layla's scores on the last test? So, average score on the 5 tests was 82. So, I will say score on the last test, it is just 5 times 82, right? Which is the summation of all tests, then minus 4x. Okay, so this should give you 410 minus 4x. And the difference is actually the score she got for the 5th or the last test. So let's see what another conclusion that we can use to help us solve the problem. Because, okay, let me zoom in a little bit. Okay, good. So because higher score on the last test, okay, so that's our given condition. Then we know that x must be less than 82. X, which is the score that's shared by the first 4 tests, is x, 4x, and the last score. So if the average 82 and the last score is higher than 82, then all the x should be less than 82 to make the mean to be 82, right? So our condition, our indication is that, let me write it better, x must be less than 82. Okay? Now, the next step is consider the score of the last test is 100 or 99. Why start from 100? Because the maximum possible points is 100, right? It's inclusive, so she can get a 100 score. Consider score on the last test. Okay, let me read it better. Is 82. Okay, sorry, it's 100 or 99. Why is or? I'm gonna explain this later. Because if you plug in 100 or 99 into our previous equation, you will see we will get a decimal for x. However, what is our restriction? Okay, I zoom in too much. Our restriction is the test score must be an integer. Okay, so in order to be an integer, we cannot have decimals. So 100 or 99 doesn't work because it will give decimal value for x. Okay, which cannot happen according to the problem. Then, what is the next highest number besides 199? It's 98, right? So we know that the last test has a score of 98. Let me write it better. Okay, since it's 98, if you plug in 98, so we know that 4x is equals to 410 minus 98, which should be 312, right? So this actually tells you x is going to equal to 78. Now, we do have a set for x, right? So x first is can be larger than or equal to 78. And what's the restriction? Here, x must be less than 82 to make the mean to be 82. So x is less than 82. How many values are in between 72 and 82, including 78 but not including 82? They are 78, 79, 80, and 81, right? So I will say there are four numbers in between. So we get 78, we have 79, we have 80, and 81. Okay, so that's our full number. I'll put a little box. So, what you say? Okay, 4. Again, so for problem like this, our general approach is to first set up our equation so we know the relationship between the first 4 exams and the last one. So after knowing that, we can definitely find their difference and try values to put inside those equations, and we will get a final solution. Again, the trick is if it's asking for the largest, let's start from the largest possible number, which is 100 in this case. Then if 100 doesn't work, try 99. If 99 doesn't work, try 98, okay? And here we get a upper bound and a lower bound for x value. So that's for this one, okay? Now, exit ticket. So we're going to use about the same technique. So Laila took 6 math tests, each worth a maximum of 100 points. Laila's score on each test was an integer between 0 and 100. It looks really the same as the previous one, right? So let me get my pen ready. The number of exam now is increasing from 5 to 6, each worth a maximum of 100. Laila's score on each test was an integer, okay? Still cannot be decimal, between 0 and 100, inclusive. Laila received the same score on the first 5 tests. Okay, that's rare. Received the same score on the first 5 tests. So just by this sentence, we can write, assume Laila, okay, gets X score. Okay, let me write it better. On each of the first 5 tests, right? On each. Okay, let me write it better. Of the first 5 tests. Okay, so that's Lila's case. And she received a higher score on the last test. So that's some improvement, higher score on the last test. Her average of the 6 was 85. So we know the score on the last test is the difference between the summation and the 5x, right? So that's something we carry from the previous problem. Score on the last test is equals to how many tests is 6? Each of us scores 85 minus, among those 6 tests, 5 tests has a score of x. So 6 times 85 minus 5x, we should get 510 minus 5x. Okay, so the difference again is the score for the last test. Now let me use a different color to denote the start of our second step. Because we get a higher score on the last exam. So it says higher score on the last test. Okay, since higher score on the last test, then x. Oh, sorry, let me write it better. X must be less than 85, right? Why? Because now, imagine we have 5x and an unknown number. We know the average is 85, okay, which is given right here. And we know the unknown number is larger than 85. So in order to make the mean remain at 85, we need to have smaller numbers on the first 5x values, right? So x must be less than 85. This actually gives the upper bound for the x value. And we also know that consider the score of the last test, okay? What's the sorry, let me write it better. What is the highest possible value for Laila to get on the last test? It's 100, right? Remember, the score is an integer between 0 and 100 with both and included. So it's 100 is the possible value, the score of the last test. Let me write it better. To be 100. Now, since x is integer, we need to test if we're plugging 100 into our equation, do we get an integer for x? So if x is integer, then our equation after plugging in 100 will become 500 minus 5x equals 100. So this is equivalent to say that 5x is actually 410, right? So by doing this division, we get x equals to 84. So we know that this is actually going to give the lower bound. Why? Because we already have the upper bound to be strictly less than 85. Means 85 is not included and should be larger than or equal to 82. So that's the easy step. Let's count how many numbers in between. So we get 82, 83, 84. Okay, so we only have these three numbers because 85 is strictly less than, okay? So that's in total three numbers. So which option is correct? Which is B, okay? I'm zooming too much. So we're gonna choose B for this problem. Again, it uses the exact same technique we did for the previous problem. So we choose B. Okay, good. Now on to before we head to our last problem of today's session, I do want to again mention this timeline for the 2025 AMCA. So in June and July, we're going to have our first round of AMCA mock tests and our real exam practice class. Although the exam is already finished, but we do offer something similar in the upcoming August, October, November, December, and January. Okay, so that's being said, we're going to have another 4 rounds of the AMCA mock test. And besides that, I know a lot of students are maybe aiming for the AR prize or HR prize. So we're also going to offer the short-term AR class and the HR class. Again, the AR class is designed for those who are aiming for the AR prize. So I will put the most focus on the first 18 problems. And the HR class is going to be more challenging as it will include some problems like problem number 20, number 21. Okay, so same idea for the second and third round of AR and HR class. We're going to change the class materials, the number of problems, but we're going to keep the same format. Now, in January, right before we step into the test center for taking the AMCA, we're going to have our one and only short-term DHR class. DHR class is designed for those who are aiming for the Distinguished Honor Roll in the AMCA 2025. So it will be challenging and focus more on the question number from 22 to 25. Okay, the last 3 to 2 questions and our final AMCA mock test. So I know that's a lot of information, and just in case you are interested in but not sure which class to take, which exam to take, what is the best pace for get prepared for the exam, you are super welcome to add me on my WeChat, which is Think VIP60. And you can also go to my Facebook group. So it's a group run by the Think Academy. It's going to have the name as AMCA Helpful and Educational Math Resources. Again, in this group, you can not only find some valuable information, find some problem sets about how to get prepared. Well, also, you can exchange information with other people who are preparing for the exam. So that should be very worth joining. Okay, so let's go to our last problem of today's live stream session. So the average of the first 5 numbers in list is 554. So first we can find the total, right? Since they are 5 number and their average 54, so I can just write the total is 54 times 5, right? Which is 270, okay? So that's the total. Then it's another condition given to us. The average of the first 2 numbers is 84 or 48. So we know the sum of the first 2 numbers okay, Sum, let me write it better. The sum of the first two numbers should just be 48 times 2, right? The average 48, which is equal to 96. So let me write it better. Just by giving these two conditions, we should be able to get another condition that's very important. That is the sum, okay, let me draw the arrow, of the last three numbers is the difference, right, between 270 and 96. So 200, let me write it better. 270 minus 96 should be 174, right? The difference is the summation of the last three numbers. So what is this problem asking? It's asking for what is the average of the last three numbers. So the average, that is easy, just by dividing the summation by the number of numbers we have. So that is 174 divided by, that's the summation of three numbers, right? So divided by 3, we should get 58. Okay, if you want to confirm answer, sure, you can multiply by. So 3 times 8 is 4, add 2, 15 plus 2 is 17. So we confirm our answer. We know that the correct option is D. Okay, so quick review of how to do problem like this. First, as long as you are given the number you have in a list and their average, you can always find the summation, the total. As long as the total is fixed, the difference, okay, and you can also remember the fact if it's a fixed total, one of the dating number increases means the other one must decrease. So that's the trick you will always want to apply for problems that ask for the application of average. Okay, so I think that's all for today's session. And by the way, all the questions are coming from this Think Academy AMC book. So you can see in this book, we not only include problems, but there's going to be examples and some ideas illustrated. So this book is really useful, especially for those who are preparing for the exam, as it distinguishes problems into modulus. So into the 6 modulus, which are numbers on operation, geometry, numbers theorem, word problem, and so on. Also, we're going to have the answer keys attached to the back. So it's really convenient if you want to have one of those hard copies. So if you want to know how to get one of those, please also add me on my WeChat. Again, my WeChat ID is ThinkVip60. I'm going to pause here for maybe 10 more seconds so you can take a screenshot or take a picture. Okay? Thank you so much again for coming to today's live stream. I will see you guys next time. Please have a good rest of your day. Okay, that's it.